The palace of Alindra was quiet in the early morning, the sun casting golden light over the marble towers and gardens. Yet inside the walls a storm of curiosity and determination brewed. Princess Ilara had begun to trust the human visitor, Darien, and for the first time in centuries, she was willing to confront the truth behind the curse that had haunted her family and the kingdom for generations. Darien moved through the corridors with a careful step, his eyes scanning for the hidden details most would overlook. The palace was a living puzzle, its magic designed to confuse and protect. Yet humans, he had learned, could often see patterns where others only saw chaos. He had noticed that the traps and wards that had ensnared previous suitors were not random. They followed rules, linked to fear, pride, or ignorance. Those who approached the princess with selfish intent never survived. Those with courage and insight might. Ilara met him in the library, her face a mixture of excitement and worry. "I have searched these texts for years," she said, "but the origins of the curse remain hidden. Many records were destroyed or hidden. We may find answers, or only more questions." Darien smiled. "Then we search. That is what humans do when faced with a mystery. We observe, we test, and we try again." The two began their investigation with the oldest records in the palace library. Dusty tomes, brittle scrolls, and faded illustrations told stories of kings and queens, wars, alliances, and betrayals. Hidden among the records, they discovered hints of the curse's origin. "Look at this," Darien said, pointing to a faded parchment. "It mentions a sorceress named Melindra. She was jealous of your ancestors and their growing influence. This may be the beginning of the curse." Ilara studied the page, her fingers tracing the ancient script. "Melindra was powerful," she said. "She was said to command forces beyond comprehension. But why would her magic continue for centuries after her death?" "Magic often lingers where fear remains," Darien replied. "If the palace itself absorbed her power and the people feared it, the curse could grow stronger over time. Fear feeds magic in ways even humans cannot fully understand." Ilara nodded slowly. "Then the curse is not just my burden, it is the kingdom's. Their fear strengthens it." Over the next few days, Darien and Ilara worked together to piece together the puzzle. They studied diagrams of wards, magical seals, and enchanted artifacts scattered throughout the palace. Darien's human perspective proved invaluable. He noticed patterns in the enchantments, sequences that responded to emotion, and triggers linked to intent. "See this?" he said, pointing to a circular pattern etched into the floor. "It reacts to pride and ambition. Most who tried to court you wanted glory or wealth. That activated the ward, trapping or harming them. We need to approach this with caution and humility." Ilara felt a mixture of relief and awe. She had known the curse was dangerous, but she had never fully understood its mechanisms. With Darien's insight, she realized that courage and sincerity were the keys, not raw strength or titles. One evening, as the sun set behind the towers, casting long shadows across the palace, they discovered a hidden chamber beneath the library. The entrance was covered by a tapestry depicting the founding of Alindra. Darien noticed slight indentations in the floor, pressure points that opened the doorway if pressed in the correct sequence. "Another puzzle," he said, kneeling to examine it. "Humans love puzzles. Let's see if we can find the key." Ilara followed his lead, her curiosity piqued. Together they pressed the stones in the correct order. The wall trembled, then slid aside to reveal a spiral staircase leading deep into the palace. The air grew cooler, heavier, and faint magical currents brushed against their skin. "This is the oldest part of the palace," Ilara said. "Few have seen it and fewer still have returned." Darien moved first, trusting his instincts and careful observation. He noted faint runes etched into the walls and floor. "These are defensive spells," he said. "They react to fear, hesitation, and dishonesty. We must be careful." Ilara followed closely, feeling both apprehension and excitement. The chamber seemed alive, as if the walls themselves were watching. "I have never felt the palace like this," she whispered. "It reacts to our presence differently." They reached the bottom of the spiral staircase, entering a vast hall filled with ancient relics and inscriptions. The walls told the story of Melindra, the jealous sorceress, and her obsession with power. She had attempted to curse Ilara's family to remove them from influence, but the magic had not ended with her life. Instead, it had embedded itself into the palace, fueled by fear and misunderstanding. Darien studied the inscriptions carefully. "It says here that Melindra's power can only persist as long as fear exists. The people of Alindra, afraid of the princess in the palace, unknowingly maintain her magic. Ilara felt a rush of realization. Then the curse is not truly about me. It is about the fear of others. If we can change that, perhaps it can end. Exactly, Darian replied. Humans have faced impossible odds before. Fear is a challenge to be understood, not just avoided. They continued exploring, finding hidden passages, magical devices, and records of those who had tried to court her in the past. Each story confirmed their theory. The curse was reactive, preying on ambition, greed, and fear. The few who survived were humble and sincere, yet most perished because the palace sensed false motives. Ilara watched Darian carefully. His determination and calm presence inspired her. She realized that humans, though fragile in body compared to Alindrans, possessed a resilience and insight unmatched by those who relied solely on power or status. This human, she thought, might truly help her uncover the truth. In one chamber, they discovered an enchanted mirror. Those who looked into it saw not their reflection, but visions of their desires, fears, and intentions. Many who had tried to court Ilara had perished here, trapped by illusions that exposed their true hearts. Darian approached it cautiously. Fear is the mirror, he said. It shows us what we most wish to avoid. We must face it, not run from it. Ilara stood beside him, taking a deep breath. Together they looked into the mirror. For a moment both saw shadows and whispers of the past, visions of those who had failed and warnings that chilled the soul. But Darian did not flinch. He observed, analyzed, and understood the patterns. His courage steadied Ilara, giving her the strength to look beyond the illusions. When they stepped away, the mirror's surface returned to normal. Ilara realized that the magic was not invincible. It could be faced, understood, and outwitted. The curse, she thought, was not eternal. It had rules, and rules could be broken or navigated with intelligence and courage. As night fell, the palace seemed calmer, though the air still hummed with ancient magic. Darian and Ilara sat in the chamber, poring over maps, inscriptions, and artifacts. Each discovery brought new questions, but also hope. They were uncovering the truth behind centuries of fear and superstition, and with every step the curse's power weakened, not through confrontation alone, but through understanding and courage. Ilara spoke softly, almost to herself. Perhaps the curse has existed not to punish, but to teach, to show who is brave enough to see the truth behind fear. Darian nodded. And humans often succeed where others fail. We see the world differently. We learn, adapt, and face the unknown. That is why I am here. For the first time in centuries, Ilara felt a spark of hope that was not tinged with fear. The palace, though ancient and powerful, had never seen a partnership like this. Human ingenuity and courage, combined with Alindran wisdom and insight. Together they could uncover the truth behind the curse and perhaps one day end it entirely. The night deepened, and the palace settled into quiet. Outside, the wind whispered through the towers, carrying faint echoes of the past. Inside, Darian and Ilara continued their work, tracing the threads of magic, history, and fear. They knew the journey ahead would be difficult, full of traps, illusions, and unexpected challenges. Yet for the first time, they also knew that together, they had a chance. The curse of Alindra, centuries old and fed by fear, had finally met a force it could not ignore. Human courage, curiosity, and determination. And with that force growing stronger each day, the palace itself seemed to shift, as if sensing a new future, one in which the princess might walk freely. And the human who dared to ignore warnings could prove that courage and understanding could change even the oldest of curses. The deeper Darian and Ilara delved into the palace, the stronger the sense of magic and history became. Hidden chambers, enchanted halls, and ancient scripts told a story not just of curses but of ambition, jealousy, and power. Yet amid all the whispers and shadows, one truth became clear. The curse originated from the sorceress Malindra, whose jealousy and fury had shaped the palace's magic for centuries. Ilara guided Darian to a part of the palace few had ever seen. A narrow staircase led down into forgotten catacombs, tunnels lined with inscriptions warning intruders to turn back. The air was cooler here, and faint glimmers of magic shimmered along the walls as if the stone itself was alive. This is the oldest part of the palace, Ilara said, her voice steady despite the chill. It is where Malindra left her mark. Few have dared enter, fewer have returned. Darian studied the walls, noticing patterns in the runes. The magic is defensive, he observed. It reacts to fear, hesitation, and dishonesty. If we remain calm and act carefully, we can reach the source. They moved slowly, each step measured. The corridors twisted and turned like a labyrinth, and every shadow seemed to shift and move. Occasionally, faint illusions flickered before them. A noble reaching for a crown, a hand disappearing into the darkness, whispers of warning. Ilara shivered but kept moving. "These are tests," she said. "The palace is showing us what we fear most. We must not falter." Darian nodded. "Fear is natural. Courage is choosing to act despite it." Finally, they reached a massive stone door, engraved with symbols that pulsed faintly with light. Beyond it, a presence could be felt, a force alive with power and anger. This was the heart of Melindra's curse, the place where centuries of magic had been anchored. Ilara placed her hand on the door. "This is it," she whispered. "The source. We must be careful. Melindra's spirit may try to frighten us away." With steady hands, Darian reached out and pressed a sequence of runes that matched patterns he had observed earlier. The door trembled, then slowly opened, revealing a hall filled with shifting shadows and ethereal light. At the center floated a figure, transparent yet terrifying, Melindra's spirit. Her eyes glowed with anger, and her voice echoed like distant thunder. "Who dares enter my domain?" the spirit demanded. "Centuries have passed. The curse is mine to command." Ilara stepped forward. "I am Princess Ilara. This palace has suffered under your influence for too long. We are here to understand and end the curse, not to fight you with hatred." The spirit's laugh was chilling. "End the curse? Foolish child. Many have tried. All have failed. Why should you succeed?" Darian moved beside Ilara, his voice calm and firm. "Because fear will not guide us. We face truth, not illusions. We act with courage, patience, and honesty." Melindra's spirit surged forward, and the illusions of the hall intensified. Shadows twisted into the shapes of past suitors, nobles, and monsters, each one reaching for Darian and Ilara. The floor seemed to shift beneath them, and walls pulsed with energy designed to terrify and disorient. Darian's mind worked quickly. He noticed the patterns in the illusions. They moved according to fear, reacting to hesitation and doubt. He focused, analyzing each shadow, noting that none could harm them if they remained calm and confident. "Ilara," he said quietly, "do not let the fear affect you. See the patterns. The magic responds to intent, not strength." The princess took a deep breath, steadying herself. Together they moved forward step by step, ignoring the illusions and focusing on the heart of the hall. Melindra's spirit tried again, conjuring visions of failure, despair, and loss. But Darian and Ilara pressed on, their courage unwavering. At the center of the hall was a pedestal glowing with dark energy. On it lay an ancient crystal, the anchor of Melindra's curse. The spirit's voice echoed around them. "If you destroy the crystal, you destroy what is mine." Darian studied it carefully. "It is not about destruction," he said. "It is about understanding and breaking the pattern. Fear feeds this magic. Remove the fear and it will collapse." Ilara approached the pedestal, her hands steady. "We do not act with anger or hatred," she said aloud. "We act with truth and courage. The curse exists only because of fear. That ends now." As she spoke, Darian joined her, placing his hands on the pedestal as well. Together, they focused on the palace, the history, and the fear that had fueled the curse. Melindra's spirit shrieked, visions swirling faster, trying to frighten them into retreat. But Darian's calm, human determination grounded them both. Ilara's voice strengthened, echoing through the hall, filled with courage and clarity. Slowly, the crystal's glow began to fade. The shadows dissipated, the illusions disappeared, and the pulsing energy of the hall weakened. Melindra's spirit thinned, her fury replaced by surprise and disbelief. How can this be?" the spirit whispered. "Fear cannot be removed." "It can," Darian said simply. "Fear is a choice. Courage is a choice. Your magic relied on fear, and now that it is gone, it loses power." Ilara added, "We do not hate you, Melindra. We understand you, but your curse ends here not with anger, but with truth and courage." The crystal shattered silently, releasing a wave of energy that washed through the hall. The walls of the palace seemed to breathe, the shadows fading and the air lighter than it had been for centuries. The magic that had trapped the princess for generations dissolved. Melindra's spirit, no longer fueled by fear, slowly faded into nothingness, leaving behind only a faint whisper of acknowledgement. Ilara collapsed to her knees, exhausted but relieved. "It is over," she whispered. "The curse. It is gone." Darian placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Yes, the curse existed because of fear, not because of you. Your courage and willingness to face the truth ended it." For the first time in centuries, the palace was silent, calm, and free from the oppressive magic that had ruled it. The hall, once a place of terror, now felt open, safe, and alive. Sunlight streamed through unseen windows, illuminating the ancient walls and the relics that had once been instruments of fear. Ilara looked around, tears of relief in her eyes. "I never imagined this could happen. Not because of magic, but because of understanding. Because of courage," Darian smiled. "Humans face unknowns all the time. We adapt, we learn, and we act with reason and heart. Sometimes courage is all it takes." They made their way back through the catacombs, the palace seeming to welcome them rather than challenge them. Hallways that had once been twisted and dark were now straight and clear. The shadows that had lurked in corners no longer followed their steps. Even the air seemed lighter, freer, as if centuries of fear had finally been lifted. When they emerged into the moonlit garden, Ilara felt a new sense of freedom. She could walk without fear, speak without hesitation, and think without the weight of the curse pressing down. For centuries she had been trapped by magic and superstition, but now she was truly free. "Thank you," she said softly to Darian. "I could not have done this without you." Darian shook his head. "You did it. I only walked beside you. Courage, understanding, and trust, those are your gifts. Humans only help when needed." The palace, once a place of fear and darkness, now seemed alive with possibility. Flowers glowed softly in the moonlight. Fountains sparkled with clear water, and the corridor seemed open and welcoming. The people of Elindra would soon learn that their princess was free, and that courage and understanding could overcome even the oldest fears. That night, as the stars shone above the palace towers, Darian and Ilara sat together in the garden. The silence was peaceful, broken only by the gentle rustle of leaves. For the first time, neither felt alone. Together they had faced centuries of magic, fear, and history and emerged victorious. The journey was far from over. The curse may have been broken, but the kingdom would take time to heal. Yet Darian and Ilara knew that with courage, wisdom, and trust, nothing could stop them. The palace, once a symbol of fear, had become a place of hope, and their partnership had shown that even the most impossible challenges could be overcome. And so, the human who ignored warnings and the princess who had been feared for centuries stood together under the stars, ready to face whatever the future might bring. The curse of Elindra was gone, but a new story, one of courage, understanding, and partnership, was only beginning. The first light of dawn painted the palace towers with shades of gold and pink, reflecting off the marble walls and sparkling gardens. For the first time in centuries, Elindra's palace felt alive in a new way. Where there had been fear, there was now hope. Where there had been whispers of doom, there was laughter of servants, birdsong, and the gentle movement of people no longer afraid to enter spaces they had once avoided. Princess Ilara stood at the balcony, looking over the city. Her heart felt lighter than it had in generations. The curse, centuries old and feared by all, had been broken, not through power or force, but through courage, understanding, and human insight. Darian stood beside her, watching the city as well. The humans in the kingdom were rare, but his presence symbolized more than just foreign curiosity. He represented courage that defied superstition, a mind willing to question old beliefs, and the power of determination to challenge the impossible. "Look at it," Ilara said, her voice soft but filled with wonder. "The city seems different, freer, not because the curse was only mine, but because fear no longer controls us." Darian nodded. The palace was alive, reacting to fear for centuries. Now that it senses hope and courage instead, everything begins to change. The people will notice it too. Indeed, the streets below were slowly coming back to life. Merchants had returned, nobles walked with a sense of ease, and the citizens of Elindra no longer felt the weight of a dark story lingering over them. Parents brought children closer to the palace, and travelers from distant lands ventured near without hesitation. A sense of renewal spread through the kingdom, a fresh beginning born from bravery and understanding. Ilara turned to Darian. "I cannot thank you enough. You came here, ignored the warnings, and faced what no one else could. You helped me see that courage and logic can overcome even the oldest of fears." Darian smiled. "You did the real work. I only walked beside you. Humans have a way of seeing patterns, yes, but without your wisdom and openness, nothing would have worked. It was your courage that guided us. Together they descended into the palace, visiting the library, the hallways, and the garden. Every corner of the palace seemed to welcome them. The enchantments that had once tested fear now seemed dormant, their purpose fulfilled. The palace, a structure built to isolate and punish, had transformed into a place of learning, safety, and beauty. In the old library, Ilara discovered records of past events, written long ago by scholars who had feared the curse. With Darian's help, she interpreted the texts, understanding that the curse had been more reactive than absolute. Those who had vanished were victims of fear, greed, or pride, not of her presence. She realized the importance of understanding history rather than merely fearing it. Darian helped her devise ways to teach this lesson to the kingdom. "We must show people that the curse no longer exists," he said. "Not with announcements alone, but with actions. Let them see your courage, the openness of the palace, and the freedom you now have. The story will change as the people witness it themselves." Ilara agreed. Together they planned a public ceremony to show the citizens of Alindra that the palace and the princess were no longer bound by fear. Word spread quickly and anticipation grew. Citizens wondered whether the curse truly could end, and nobles debated whether they should participate. But when the day arrived, the crowd was large, filled with curiosity, hope, and cautious optimism. Ilara appeared on the balcony, dressed simply yet elegantly. She did not need jewels or pomp. Her presence alone inspired awe. She raised her hand to the crowd. "People of Alindra," she began, her voice clear and strong. "The curse that has haunted this palace and my family for centuries is no more. Fear no longer has power here. We are free together." The citizens gasped, their eyes wide with wonder. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Then, as if sensing the truth of her words, the palace seemed to respond. Windows glowed, fountains sparkled more brightly, and the flowers in the gardens opened fully under the sunlight. The city itself seemed to breathe, and a wave of relief and joy swept through the crowd. Darian stood beside Ilara, quietly observing. "They need to see courage to believe it," he said softly. "Not just hear words, but witness action." Ilara nodded. She had learned from Darian that fear could be overcome with demonstration, not just declaration. Together they invited citizens to enter the palace, explore the halls, and see its beauty and history firsthand. People walked through spaces that had been forbidden for centuries, feeling no danger, sensing only the care and intention behind every room. Children laughed in the gardens, running past fountains and flowers. Scholars examined ancient texts that had once been feared as dangerous. Nobles met and spoke with the princess without hesitation, learning that bravery and sincerity were what mattered most. The palace, once a symbol of isolation and fear, became a place of learning, collaboration, and inspiration. Ilara and Darian worked together to restore the palace further. They repaired old corridors, cleared hidden chambers, and cataloged the magical artifacts that had once been instruments of fear. Darian shared human techniques for organization, logic, and problem-solving, which helped them navigate the palace's complex history and magical patterns. Ilara, in turn, shared her understanding of Alindran magic and history, blending their knowledge into a system that was practical, safe, and educational. As weeks passed, the kingdom adjusted to a new reality. Stories of the cursed princess were replaced by tales of courage, curiosity, and partnership. Humans, once rare and viewed with caution, were now respected for their ingenuity and bravery. Darian, though still a visitor, was honored as a friend of Alindra, a symbol of human courage and intelligence. Ilara herself experienced a transformation. Freed from fear, she became a leader who inspired rather than intimidated. Her wisdom, intelligence, and openness attracted scholars, adventurers, and thinkers from distant lands. The palace became a hub of knowledge, a center for collaboration, and a beacon of hope for the entire kingdom. One evening, as the sun set over Alindra, Darian and Ilara walked through the moonlit garden. The fountains sparkled, flowers swayed gently, and the air was filled with the scent of blossoms and freedom. They paused near a stone bench overlooking the city below. "You changed everything," Ilara said softly. "Not just the curse, but the palace, the people, even me." Darian smiled. "We changed it together. Humans see patterns, yes, but courage, wisdom, and trust, those are what make change real. You had all of that already. I only helped show it." Ilara looked at him, a sense of admiration and respect in her eyes. Perhaps humans are not so ordinary after all, she said. Your curiosity, your courage, it has rewritten history. And you, Darian replied, have shown that even centuries of fear can be overcome with understanding and bravery. That is something Alindra will remember for generations. They walked in silence for a moment, enjoying the peace that had settled over the palace. No longer did shadows chase them. No longer did whispers of fear linger. The kingdom was alive with possibility, a place where courage and understanding were stronger than superstition. The night deepened, and stars twinkled above the towers. Alara and Darian sat together, speaking quietly of plans for the future. They would continue to restore the palace, educate the people, and explore the mysteries of magic and history that had once seemed so threatening. But now, with courage and understanding as their guides, nothing seemed impossible, and so the human who ignored warnings and the princess who had been feared for centuries stood together at the dawn of a new era. The curse of Alindra was gone, broken not by force but by courage, curiosity, and partnership. The kingdom, freed from fear, would thrive, and the story of Darian and Alara became a legend, not of danger but of hope, intelligence, and the power of facing the unknown with bravery. The palace, once a place of shadows, now shone with light. The city, once quiet with fear, buzzed with life. And at the heart of it all, the princess and the human who dared to challenge centuries of superstition walked side by side, showing the world that courage and understanding could truly change destiny. It was a new dawn for Alindra, a kingdom reborn from fear, and a future shaped by human ingenuity and the heart of a princess who dared to believe.